Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make a cable stitch sleeveless turtleneck. For this one, we added some variations to a classic, adding some cables along the armholes for a little pizzazz while keeping the overall look clean, because sometimes less is more. Speaking of, if you're digging the minimal modern crochet aesthetic, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of the cleanest crochet tutorials and patterns online with new patterns weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 75 grams of yarn, and that's 100 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite fragrance. Mine is Princess by Vera Wang. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 5 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video. So let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making a chain that starts 1 inch underneath our underarm down to where we want the bottom of this top to be, so cropped or full length. I'd like for mine to be full length, so I'm going to make a chain that is 13 inches or 33 centimeters. That's a chain of 55 for me. And I already have my underarm portion finished up, so I'm just going to be doing a small sample size with you. Now that we have our chain, we are going to be inserting our stitch marker into the 7th chain that we have, starting from our tail end, and that is going to block off where the cable stitch detail is going to be. So all we're going to do is count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and insert a stitch marker into there. And once we have inserted our stitch marker into that 7th stitch, and that is the same for every size no matter what, we're now going to continue on with our row 1. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And now we're going to half double crochet until we reach our stitch marker. So yarn over into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook, bring our hook down, into that chain, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that following chain, insert, pull through all 3. Now continue with 1 half double crochet until we are 1 stitch right before our stitch marker. Now that we've put 1 half double crochet into every chain, leaving that chain right before our stitch marker, we're now going to do an increase of 3 half double crochets. So let's all yarn over, insert our hook into that following chain, and insert with 3 half doubles. So there's 1, into that same last chain with 2, and then into that same last chain with 3 half double crochets. And we're now going to get started on our row 2. We are going to be leaving these extra chains for the cable stitch detail once we get to them. So after our increase, we're going to chain 2. That first chain is going to count as a stitch, that second chain is going to count as a chain, and we're going to flip our work. Since we're increasing into our back loop slip stitch row as well, we're going to insert our hook into that second chain from our hook's back loop, and then gently yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into that following stitch, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything. Again, into that next stitch's back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, remembering not to tug too tightly, otherwise the following row could be a little too tight to work into. We are now at the end of our row 2. Now getting started on our row 3, we're going to be alternating between a back loop half double and back loop slip stitch row. So we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and then into that last chain we're going to insert with a back loop half double crochet now. So just into that first stitch's back loop and half double crochet per usual, and continue with one back loop half double crochet until we have one stitch left. We've put one back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving that last one, and now we're going to again insert with an increase. So 3 half double crochets into that last back loop. That's my second, that is my third, and now it's just going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows. So just as a refresher once more, our back loop slip stitch row is going to start with a chain 2 because we need to start it with an increase. Flip our work, find that second chain from our hook's back loop, insert with a slip stitch, and one slip stitch into the rest of our stitches. Now we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we have an underarm portion that can stretch from mid-underarm over to the base of our neck. And we do need this point to reach the base of our neck, and we just want to make sure that when we're putting this up to ourselves as if we're wearing it, one, we are stretching it as if we're wearing it because it does have some stretch, and also that we are not excluding this chain when we're putting this up to ourselves. So making sure that we're putting this tail end still where 1 inch underneath our underarm is. And I will meet you back right after a slip stitch row so we can get started on the neckline from there. I am back and my underarm portion is all finished. Now I have a total of 14 rows. My width is now 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters, and the total height of my piece is 15.5 inches or 39 centimeters. And what we're going to do from here is just do back loop half doubles and back loop slip stitch rows, working our way across our chest over to the other side of the base of our neck. So since we're all along the bottom, chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and then 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Continue on with those 2 rows, and I'll meet you back right after a back loop half double crochet row so we can do the underarm portion on the other side. And right before we move on, I just wanted to remind you to make sure that you're inserting your stitch marker into your last increase row, which should be that slip stitch row. I'll meet you back when the neckline is finished. Alright, so I am back with the width of the middle portion of my front panel. I now have a total of 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters unstretched, and I have a total of 23 rows. And now from here we're going to do the other underarm portion, and it's going to mirror the first underarm portion. So since we're along the top, we're going to get started on our back loop slip stitch row, but that's going to start with a decrease of 2. So chain 1 and flip our work. From here we're all going to find that first available stitch and insert into that back loop, pull through into that following stitch's back loop, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and from here put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. But before we move on anymore, be sure to insert your stitch marker into the beginning of this slip stitch row, just so we know where the start and end of our underarm's at. Once we reach the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 3 so that we can do a decrease of 3 together. So we have made our way all the way down with our back loop half double crochet row, and we have left 1, 2, 3 stitches left. And now we're going to do a decrease of 3 back loop half doubles because on the other side we did an increase of 3 back loop half doubles. So yarn over, insert your hook into that third to last back loop, pull through, second to last, pull through, and then into that last, pull through. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook, and just yarn over, pull through all 5 of those loops. And that's it. From here we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows as our first underarm portion. Once we reach our last row, I will meet you back just to remind you that we're going to end that off with a chain 7 so we have enough space to do our cables. We are back and our underarm portion is all finished. I have the same amount of rows that I started this piece off with for our underarm portion, and we should have all ended along the top right after a back loop half double crochet row. Once when we have made our way down to our last row, we're all going to make a chain 7, and that's going to mirror the 7 chains that we left when we got started with our underarm. And now from here we're going to single crochet across the top of our piece to clean it all up. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our detail, so our ribbing, is faced up towards us, And we're all going to insert our hook into the right side, so into that first chain that we have right over here. And then once we insert our hook into that chain, we should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains left. And all we're going to do from here is a single crochet row along the top. So we're all going to start by inserting our yarn onto our hook. You're going to pull through, and we're going to start by putting 2 single crochets into every side half double, and then 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row. So getting this started, we're all going to start by finding that first side row, which is a side half double crochet for everyone. We're going to insert our hook, and if you would like to weave in your tail ends as you go ahead and place your tail end over your hook, and then single crochet along everything. Now 1 more single crochet is going to be worked into that side row, so into that same side row, insert with a second single crochet. Now our following side row is the side slip stitch row, so we're going to find that top loop, insert our hook in through there, and single crochet. And that is it. We're going to continue to put 2 single crochets into every side half double, 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row until we reach our stitch marker. So now that we have single crocheted our way all the way up, we are now at our stitch marker stitch, which should be a side slip stitch row, which is our last decrease or increase row depending on what side you're working on. So go ahead and insert your hook in through that stitch marker stitch, and be sure to insert your stitch marker into that same stitch. And then from here, we're working our way across the top, 2 single crochet into every side half double, and then 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch row. And now that we have made our way across the top with our single crochet row, we're now going to get started on working down our underarm portion. Our first side row right here should be our side slip stitch row. So take our stitch marker out for now. Insert your hook into that top loop with 1 single crochet, and be sure to insert your stitch marker into that top loop to match the first stitch marker. And then from here, continue with 2 single crochet into every side half double and 1 single crochet into every side slip. And now that we have made our way all the way down our underarm, we don't have any more side rows left to work into. So now all we're going to do is just slip stitch it into that following chain that we have, or this chain that we have our stitch marker in. So go ahead and take that out. Into that chain, insert with a slip stitch. And just as a quick tip, that slip stitch that we just did, so this one right here, is going to look like an extra stitch, but it's not going to count as a stitch. We're then going to chain 1 and cut. And just to double check, we should have 6 chains left along this side as well. So I am back. My single crochet row is all finished, and now we're going to get started on the cable stitch detail, and we're going to be working on the right one first. So making sure that our ribbing that we have is still faced up towards us, we're going to be inserting our hook into the last chain that we have on the right side. We are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and we're going to start with a chain 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch, we just need the height. And we're going to put 1 half double crochet into every chain, including that chain that our chain 2 is in. So what we're going to do is yarn over, and into that chain that our chain 2 is in, we're going to insert with our first half double crochet, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain until we have a total of 6 stitches. Alright, so we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. And now we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to do that is start by counting up 2 stitches into the base. So here's 1, and here's 2. Now into that second stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch to close off this first half double crochet row. And now our following row, or our row 2, or any even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, so a total of 6 single crochets. So our row 1 and 2 are all finished up. Let's get started on our row 3, or our first cable stitch row, so chain 2 and flip your work. So getting started on our cable stitch row, it's going to start with a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So let's all yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. We're going to start by skipping the first 2 half double crochets from our row 1, because every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into row 1. So not counting that chain 2, we're going to count 1, 2, skipping those first 2 stitches and then into that following, or the third half double crochet from our row 1, we're going to bring our hook down and underneath the body of that stitch. Then yarn over, pull through, and then from here we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And for our cable stitch detail, each of our stitches are worked in sets of 2. So 1 more front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times again. Into that following stitch, bring your hook underneath and through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. When we have that, we're going to be doing another set of 2 front post double treble crochets into those 2 stitches that we skipped. So again, yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. We're going to bring our hook down underneath that first half double crochet from our row 1, not counting that chain 2. So bring your work down, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And then 1 more into that following stitch that we skipped. So we yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Into that last skip stitch, bring your hook down and underneath, through the other side, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And now we should all have 2 stitches left into our row 1. We're going to be doing 1 front post treble crochet into each of those, but that last one is going to be combined with a half double crochet so that we don't get a really big gap in between our cable stitch section and our body. So to do our first front post treble, we're going to yarn over twice. Find that second to last half double crochet from our row 1. Bring your hook down and through the other side. Pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So pull through 2, pull through 2, and then 1 more front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Underneath that last half double crochet from our row 1, bring it through the other side, yarn over, pull through, and now for the last one, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. From here, we're going to yarn over, find that last stitch from our previous row, and then insert it into that stitch. Then yarn over, pull through for a total of 4 loops left on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4, and now this cable stitch detail is all finished up. Now let's connect it into the base. So we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we connected our row 1. So start by counting up 1 and 2 stitches. Into that second stitch, we are going to insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch does not count as a stitch. That's just to connect it. And that is our row 3 all finished up. Now just to get started on our row 4, like I said, each of our even number rows is going to be a single crochet row. So we're just going to need to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 6 single crochets. Alright, so all together we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows finished. So let's get started on our row 5 or our second cable stitch row. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. Our row 5 is going to start with a set of 2 front post treble crochets. So yarn over twice. Since we're working on row 5, we are going to be inserting our hook into our row 3 or our previous cable stitch row. So find that first stitch from our previous cable row. Insert your hook underneath the body of that stitch, making sure we're not working into that chain 2. Through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then another front post treble into that following stitch. So yarn over twice, insert your hook, pull through 2, 2, 2. Now right after our 2 front post trebles, we're going to be skipping the following 2 stitches and then doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochets into that second to last and into that last stitch. So yarn over 3 times. Like I said, we're going to skip 1, skip 2, into that following or the second to last stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, 2, and then again into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times. Underneath that stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. And now to finish off our row 5, we're going to be working into those 2 skip stitches, but now underneath that window that we just made for ourselves. So doing the first one, that's going to be a set of 2 front post double treble crochets as well. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. We're now going to hang on to our work yarn because it can very easily fall off. And we're going to pull our work down towards us, finding those 2 skip stitches into that window. So pull down, and these are my 2 skip stitches. Here's my first, and here's my second. We're going to insert our hook underneath that first, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, 2, and that is a crossover for row 5. We have one more left to do. Since this is the last stitch for row 5, it's going to be a front post double treble crochet, now combined with a half double, again so we don't get that gap in between the cable and our body. So yarn over 3 times. Hang on to your work yarn, bring our work down, finding that last skip stitch. Insert your hook underneath that skip stitch and through the other side, pull through, and from here we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now that we have 2 loops left on our hook, all we're going to do is yarn over and insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row, yarn over, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and now our row 5 is complete. We just need to connect it into the base. So count up 1, count up 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch, and our row 5 is complete. Now getting started on our following row, like I said, every even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So just slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and we should all have a total of 6 single crochets. So we are back, and we should all have a total of 6 rows all finished. From here, it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6 until we reach our stitch marker along the top. Now I'm just going to get started on row 7, or our following repeat of our row 3 together, just to make sure we got everything down, and then I'll let you guys go. So getting started on a row 7, that is an odd number row, so it is a cable stitch row, so let's all chain 2 and flip our work. Our row 7 is a repeat of our row 3, and every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous cable stitch row. So just as a refresher, we're going to yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Skip the first 2 stitches, and then into the following, insert with 1 front post double treble crochet, and then into the stitch right after that, another front post double treble crochet. And just to finish off our row 3, 1 front post double treble crochet into those 2 stitches that we skipped, and then 1 front post treble crochet into that second to last stitch, and then 1 front post treble crochet combined with a half double crochet into that last. Connect it into the base the same way that we've been doing, and then continue on with the repeat. Now if you need timestamps for any of those rows, they will be linked in the description, or feel free to leave a comment and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. But we're going to continue to do that, making our way all the way up until our last row is worked into that stitch marker stitch. And it should be a single crochet row for everyone. When it is, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back. I am back, and my first cable stitch detail is all finished. Now we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did over here on the other side, but we're going to insert our stitch markers into a few different places because the cable stitch detail that we have isn't reversible. But right before we move on, just as a really quick tip, the amount of cable stitch rows should be the same amount of rows that we have for our underarm. So for those of you that have my numbers, I had a total of 14 rows, and that was all the way up to my stitch marker stitch. So if you flip your work over and take a look at the back, you should have the same amount of rows. So for me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Once we have that side all finished up though, let's get started on the next side. So we're going to be inserting our same 5mm hook into the second stitch that we have into the base, and making sure that we aren't inserting it into that slip stitch, because remember that doesn't count as a stitch. So that doesn't count as a stitch, even though it looks like one. And then we're going to find that first stitch, and then into that second stitch and insert your hook. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and then automatically work into our chain with 1 half double crochet into every chain for a total of 6 half double crochets. So let's all start with the yarn over. We're going to find our first chain, which this is mine right here, and insert with a half double and continue until we all have a total of 6 half double crochets. So our row 1 is all finished. Now getting started on our row 2, we're all going to chain 1 and flip our work, and just like the other side, that's going to be a single crochet row. So chain 1 and flip. And we are all going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 6 single crochets. So now that we put 1 single crochet into every stitch, we're now going to connect it into the base. So now connecting it into the base, we're going to slip stitch it just into that following stitch into the base, because this is a single crochet row, it's a little bit shorter. Into that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch still doesn't count as a stitch. Now to work our way up to the following row, which is our row 3 or our first cable stitch row, we're going to slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches because we need that height, and none of those slip stitches count as a stitch. So there's my first, and there's my second, and flip your work. The cable stitches idea is going to be done pretty much the same way, so let's get this started. This is going to be a repeat of row 3, so the same row 3 that we did on the other side. So we're going to start with a set of 2 front post double treble crochets, but to make sure that we don't have the gap in between the cable stitch and the body, we're going to be doing a front post double treble crochet combined with a half double. So we're all going to start by counting 2 half double crochets from our row 1. So here's 1, here's 2. Underneath that third half double crochet from our row 1, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and insert our hook into that first stitch that we have from our previous row. So yarn over, bring your hook down, and underneath that first stitch from our previous row, then we're going to yarn over, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. So there's our first front post double treble crochet, and we're going to be doing 1 more into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times. Into that following, insert your hook, bring it through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2. And now we're going to do 1 front post double treble crochet into the 2 stitches that we skipped. So yarn over 3 times, find that first stitch, bring your hook through the other side, and pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, 2, and 2, and then 1 more, yarn over 3 times, into that next skip stitch, insert your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. And now that we have that, we're going to close off our row with 2 front post treble crochets, but to also make sure that our last stitch is combined with our previous row, the last stitch is going to be a front post treble crochet combined with a half double. So our second to last stitch, let's yarn over twice, and into that second to last half double crochet from our row 1, we're going to insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, and then our last stitch is going to be a front post treble combined with a half, so yarn over twice. Into that last half double crochet from our previous row, insert, pull through, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook, and when we do, yarn over, insert your hook into that last stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. And now our row 3 is all finished. Now just like the other side, each of our even number rows is a single crochet row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 6 single crochets. Our 6 single crochets are all finished. Now let's slip stitch it into the base. So into that next available stitch, slip stitch it into there, and then to work our way up to our following row, which is our cable stitch row, slip stitch into those following 2 stitches into the base. So insert, pull through everything, and also insert, pull through everything, and flip our work. Now our cable stitch detail is done pretty much the same way as the right side, but for the first stitch along the left side, we are always going to combine it with a half double crochet just to make sure that there isn't a gap. So getting started on our row 5, remember it's going to be a set of 2 front post treble crochets, but the first one is going to be combined with a half double. So let's all start with a yarn over of 2. We're going to find our first stitch from our previous cable stitch row, so it should be a front post stitch. Insert your hook, pull through, and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. When we do, yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch from our previous row, pull through, then yarn over, pull through all 4. And then our stitches are still worked in sets of 2, so another front post treble crochet into the stitch right after that. And once we have that, we're going to skip the following 2 stitches and then put 1 front post double treble crochet into the following 2, so yarn over 3 times, skip 1, skip 2, into that second to last stitch, insert with 1 front post double treble, and then into the following, insert with another front post double treble, and now we're going to be working into those 2 skip stitches, but now in through that window that we just made. So yarn over 3 times, bring our work down. We're going to find our 2 skip stitches, which this is 1 and 2 for me. So insert your hook in through that first one, pull through 2, 2, 2, 2, and then our last stitch for the row, just like the other side, is always going to be combined with a half double crochet just to make sure that it's nice and secure along the edge. So again, yarn over 3 times, bring our work down, and find that last skip stitch. This is mine right here. I'm going to bring my hook underneath and through the other side, pull through, and now we're going to pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, into that last stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops on our hook. And that is our row 5 all finished up. Now, like I said, each of our even number rows is going to be a single crochet row, so chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch for a total of 6 single crochets. So our single crochet row is finished. Let's slip stitch it into the base together just once more. Find that next available stitch, insert, yarn over, pull through everything to connect our single crochet row. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into the following 2 stitches, which is our next cable stitch row or our row 7. Flip our work, and then this is going to start with a repeat of row 3, because remember, just like the other side, it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6. So let's just get started on our following row together. Our following row is row 7, which is going to start as a repeat of row 3, so let's all start with a yarn over of 3. We're going to skip that first stitch from our previous row, skip the second, and then into that following, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. Now remember, the first stitch of every cable stitch detail row for this side is going to be combined with a half double, which is this stitch right here. So yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. When we do, yarn over, find that first stitch from our previous row, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4. And then they are worked in sets of 2, so another front post treble crochet into that following stitch. And that's it. From here, it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6 until we reach our stitch marker stitch along the top. We should have the same amount of rows as the other side or as the underarm portion, so 14 for me. And again, we're all going to end on a single crochet row. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I am back, and the entirety of my front panel is all finished. Right after my last cable stitch row, I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and once we have this, our back panel is going to be done exactly the same. So go ahead and repeat everything for 1 more identical panel, and then I'll meet you back so we can seam everything together. So now that we have both of our panels all finished up, we're now going to seam it all together. So first things first, we're going to be doing an outside loop slip stitch seam, which makes our seam look like another back loop slip stitch row. So let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning the seam for one of our panels is faced up, and the seam for the other panel is faced down. And then we're going to be inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both panels. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now let's do the first view together. Let's all start by finding that first available stitch into the front panel and insert only in through that front loop. Find that first available stitch into the back panel, insert only in through that back loop, and then yarn over and gently pull through all 3 of those loops. There's one finished up. Let's do the next. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, yarn over, and pull through everything. And that's it. We're going to continue to repeat this, making our way all the way up, including into our cable stitch detail as well. So we're going to be working all the way up. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alright, so everything is all seamed up, and now we're ready to get started on making our turtleneck. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning all of the detail that we have is along the outside. And then we're going to start by inserting our hook into one of the back corner stitches of the cable stitch detail. And then from there, we're going to make a chain that can reach all the way up and over our shoulder and reach the front panel's corner stitch, forming our armhole and one side of our neck hole. Now for one side, I just needed about 5 inches or 13 centimeters, so I made a chain 20. Now, since we are forming our armholes and our neck hole at the same time, once we have our first chain finished and then we single crochet it into the front panel's top corner stitch, once when it's connected, go ahead and try our piece on. And just make sure that this fits around our armhole, making sure that this underarm portion doesn't come up too high, making it a little bit uncomfortable. If it does, go ahead and just add more chains. But once when we have single crocheted it into the top corner stitch of the front panel, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way across. Once we made our way across, we're going to make the same chain that we made over here. So for me, a chain 20, single crochet it into the back corner stitch. Now before we make our way all the way around, once when we have single crocheted it into the back corner stitch, try on our piece, making sure that this neckline portion can now fit around our head, and also double checking that we made a nice sized armhole for our arm. Now if you need it to be a little bit tighter, take away chains from both sides to make sure it all fits perfectly. Or if you need a little bit more space for your neck hole or your armhole, just add more stitches to both chains, again making sure they end on the same amount of chains. I'm going to continue doing this, making my way all the way around, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that first chain that we made. Alright, so our first single crochet / chain row is all finished up. We're now going to do another single crochet row just to make our prep chain just a little bit more sturdy. So right after we've slip stitched into that chain space, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. And this row is going to be pretty simple. All we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every chain and 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. So just do the first one, find that first stitch, insert your hook with a single crochet, and that's it. Continue with our single crochet row, making our way all the way around, and then slip stitch into that chain space. And just as a quick reminder, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as our neck hole can stretch. So once we made our way all the way around, go ahead and try on our piece to make sure that this single crochet row can still fit around your head. If it's a little too tight, redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip. So we have made our way all the way around with our single crochet row just to sturdy up our chains, and now we're ready to get started on the length of our turtleneck. So right after we have slip stitched into that chain space, we're now all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our turtleneck to be, keeping in mind that we will be folding it in half as well. So I would like for mine to be just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters in total, so I made a chain of 30. So now that we have our chain, we're going to do a slip stitch row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And then we're going to insert our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into our next chain, we're going to insert and pull through everything. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain, remembering not to tug too tightly, otherwise the following row is going to be a little too tight to work into. So we've now made our way all the way down our chain, putting 1 slip stitch into every chain, and now we're going to connect it into the base. So into that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch does not count as a stitch, that's just to connect it. And now our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. So to work our way up to the following row, just slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And now put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the base just once more. So we are back, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 rows nearly finished. Now we're going to connect it into the base once more. So finding that next available stitch, insert in through there with a slip stitch. That does not count as a stitch. And then just work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and then repeat. So 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I will meet you back so we can seam everything together. So we are back, and we have made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam everything together, and this is going to be another outside loop slip stitch seam, so the same seam that we did for our sides. So let's all start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and let's just do the first one since we already know how to do this. Start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert into that front loop. First stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. And that's it. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that we have finished up seaming our turtleneck, the last thing we're going to do is clean up our armholes. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into that first chain that we made, working across our shoulder, and then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. Next, we're going to pull our yarn through, and then we're all going to start by finding our first side row. And this is mine right here. It should be a side single crochet for everyone, so all we're going to do is insert our hook in through there with just 1 single crochet. So into that first side single crochet row, we're going to insert our hook, and if you're like me, you have some tail ends, go ahead and place that over your hook, and we're just going to do 1 single crochet. Now we are going to be alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets, so into our following side row, which should be the side of our cable stitch row, we're going to find that top loop and insert with 2 singles. So there's 1, and then there's 2. And that's it. We're just going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. And then once we make our way over to the base of our turtleneck, we're going to slip stitch into that first chain that we have on that side, do a chain up of 1 cut, and then repeat on the other armhole. We have just finished up single crocheting along our armholes, and we are all done. Last thing I'm going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. There you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!